categorizations, but we haven't defined evil for the most part, which I think the most important and common categorization, especially in this particular philosophical argument, is defining evil as unnecessary suffering. And in regards to your scenario, as you're stopping suffering, then it would not be considered evil by my definition.
Okay, so there seems to be, are we clear then? I mean, is everybody kind of perfectly fine with leaving those categories as natural evil if there's supposing there's a creator, and moral evil then? How about you? Let's get some reactions from the quiet.
I agree with everything that's been said.
Okay.
I think in order to define evil, we do define what good is first, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Actually, that's actually a very relevant point. And if I may read something, just to clear up that distinction, because we do need to question what is good. And another, thought experiment for my trusty book. I do so love these. Number 8, good God. And the Lord spoke to the philosopher, I am the Lord thy God, and I am the source of all that is good. Why does thy secular moral philosophy ignore me? And the philosopher spake unto the Lord. To answer, I must first ask you some questions. You command us to do what is good, but is it good because you command it, or do you command it because it is good? Said the Lord, it is because I command it. The wrong answer, surely, your mightiness. If good is only good because you say it, then you could, if you wished, make it so torturing infants was good. But that would be absurd, wouldn't it? Of course, replied the Lord. I tested thee, and thou had made me pleased. What was the other choice again? You choose what is good because it is good, but that shows quite clearly that goodness does not depend on you at all. And so that we don't need to study God to study the good. Even so spake the Lord. You've got to admit, I've written some pretty good textbooks on the subject.
Wow.
So then how would you guys go about defining what good is so we can understand better what evil is, so as to define evil? What are grounds to justify good?
I guess we could justify or define good things on whether they don't cause suffering.
Well, that's a pretty good angle, but of course...
Well, I guess morally speaking.
Well, yeah, I suppose morally speaking, but I have to consider that at least it sounds like you're advocating a heathenistic philosophy, which is fine, but to elaborate, heathenism, that's to judge all things as good or bad based upon pleasure and pain, and basically that's your standard.
Alright, well, I'll add a little bit more onto that. Suffering being defined is like physical pain. Now, I guess something that doesn't cause suffering but neither causes pleasure could be considered good in a sense because it neither causes pain nor does it cause pleasure.
What about emotional or psychological suffering?
Well, it depends on what happens. Like, if you're emotionally happy, I guess good. If you're emotionally sad, then I guess evil. Or if you cause emotional sadness or suffering onto someone else. Not merely physical, but also emotional.
What if you're terribly deranged and causing suffering and others makes you happy?
Well, that's the result of an evil of being deranged.
Oh, wait.
I know. All right, this is going to happen every once in a while. We got 2 cameras. That was kind of weak. Gotta get my batteries. You guys want to see that a lot of the attention's going on this side, so if you want to scoot in your chair, so we can all do that too. Proceed. So, yeah.
Alright, well, I guess now we have to get into the definition of defining social evils. Because what some social groups consider evil, others don't.
Right.
So we have to go by which social group are we using as our basis of good and evil.
Well, true, but of course, the defining moral evil is actually a lot more complicated than you would initially think.
Oh, yeah.
Because you would think, okay, people treating each other badly, that's bad. But then again, you get into things like social Darwinism when suddenly helping people becomes bad because you're damaging society as a whole. So whether or not you agree with that premise, suddenly you can vastly redefine what a moral evil becomes.
I think that in talking about goodness, maybe we should start with saying it's the absence of evil and move from there.
I like that strategy. So we're gonna focus good is everything that is not evil, so as we can positively define evil. And evil would be, I guess, those categories with some gray areas.
Well,
And
no,
good
those are
could be
categories
further
of evil.
redefined as well.
Evil defined, or at least my definition of evil is unnecessary suffering. Those are categories of evil. Those are two places you can fit evil in, but you have to take off the natural and moral, and you have to define just evil.
So then how would you define evil?
Unnecessary suffering.
Give me an example.
So, well, you don't need an example. It's just suffering that is not necessary. Now you...
Can I say something really quick?
Sure.
You say that evil is all unnecessary suffering, right? And if we're going by your binary opposition, like, there can't be anything good if there isn't any evil. And so if evil is necessary for good to exist, then wouldn't that make evil, by your definition, good?
What?
Like, if evil is necessary to exist in order for us to have something good,
I never read that.
then, no, I'm saying, by her definition of binary opposition, everything that's good is not evil, right?
Yeah.
And if evil is unnecessary suffering,
So suffering that is necessary is good, I suppose.
So
Yeah.
tell us what
So-
sufferings are necessary.
shouldn't all suffering be necessary in order for us to know what a good thing is? Like, if we don't know evil, if evil didn't exist, then there wouldn't be anything good.
Well, of course, the definition of, an example of necessary suffering is really very much tied into the soul-making theory, which we will probably be discussing in more length later.
Yeah.
I think in regards to that it seems like a logical consequence. If you're to know what evil is, you have to know what good is, and vice versa. If you're to know what good is, you have to know what evil is. And so I think that's also another logical consequence of a further extension of free will. The fact that we have free will, we have to be able to choose from these binary options. And it seems that I wouldn't know how to morally conceive of just good by itself without that, unless we're talking about a completely strict hedonistic paradise where Preston kind of points out, where a bus is coming right out at you, and the minute it's about to attack you, it run you over, it turns into a giant bubble that just kind of gravitates into space.
But I see what you're saying. You're saying that if we're saying that evils that are necessary are good, because we're talking about the absence of good as being evil. So these evil sufferings that we go through are necessary in order for us to know what good is. Therefore, it's not evil.
Yeah.
Therefore, you can't pick apart evil. It's either evil or it's not. So there's no such thing as evil. And that's a whole new philosophy, I think.
Well, certainly so, because the moment you say
that's a
evil
whole-
doesn't exist, you basically just justified the problem of evil.
Exactly. Exactly.
So then give me your reasoning again, because I wasn't really clear on that.
Go for it.
Okay, according to binary opposition, in order for good to exist, there need to exist evil, right?
For us to know the
Because good is the
That's
the absence of evil, like she said. And if evil, by definition, is all unnecessary suffering, right? If we're going by that definition, in order for us to have good, we need the evil. We need all of these unnecessary sufferings, which make them necessary.
evil.
And
as a
since
whole
they're
is
necessary
necessary.
sufferings and no longer unnecessary, then
It's good.
it's not evil, it's something good, because it
Yeah.
helps us define what good is.
Exactly.
And because evil is now good, there is no more evil.
There is no evil.
There's just good.
That's awesome.
But that really shortens our discussion, doesn't it? Well, I think there still is clear utility in, I guess, looking at some of the defenses. I'm sure that some YouTube viewers are going to look at that and maybe be able to review it and review it and review it and kind of okay, maybe I can find some sort of poking hole, whereas the skeptics would think.
Okay, to try and thwart that, evils, as we're, you know, as we're going through all of these examples of what evil is, a lot of them, you know, as you say, differ from society, from religious belief,